Hey, what's up, guys? Jody Dean here. Welcome to the Scream Scene. Tonight, I got a special young lady here with me, a fellow filmmaker, Mina Guy. I was checking out some of her stuff a while back, just kind of, going down the rabbit hole of Mina. And that sounds bad, but oh my God, I was going down the Mina hole. No, I was going down the Mina rabbit hole. What an intro. Yeah,
That's
hey.
okay.
This is this is my weirdness.
Deep diving. It's okay. I get it. Yeah.
So I was looking at stuff she's doing, and I was like instantly really impressed. She's doing big dog shit. So I wanted to have her here on the pod, and she has a vein in horror. She loves her horror, so it makes a lot of sense. Mina, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, so Mina, where are you from? What got you into filmmaking?
Sure. So I am currently based out of New York. I'm originally from Florida. So I've got my Florida man tendencies. But horror, I've always gravitated towards it. I will say what I liked, I try to dabble in every subgenre. I really love every aspect of horror filmmaking. But um what really gravitated me towards it is people, like the dark side of human nature. Personally, I think people are the scariest monsters, like ghosts, ghouls, zombies. I can will it away. I could be like, and some people believe in ghosts. That's okay, but that's different. But I mean, like the monsters that you see in films, you can rationalize it and be like, okay, that's in my head.
Mhm.
People, you can't, so I was a true crime junkie. I still am. But I got into, when I was younger, I studied a lot of Edgar Allan Poe and psychological horror and the dark sides of human nature, the dark sides of the mind, what makes humans tick. um it's also like a cause and effect kind of thing, like what made what was the cause to make this guy a murderer, cannibal? Or like, was it always with him? Why do we act like that? Your neighbor could be fucked up and doing something like that. So, and that's something you can try your best to rationalize, but it's real, and so from that, I've always just been fascinated, and I very much like fantasy. I like fantasy. I like creating monsters. I love it, but I like a blend of both for my personal works, for the movies I watch. um I really have a love for practical effects. I think it's so great, but yeah, I think for the films and my personal works, I love psychological horror, things that deal with human nature. It's
Mhm.
scary, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's what really got me into writing about it, and like seeing, because you could see someone's backstory, you could see their history, like what snowballed from A to B to C to get them to the like that. So yeah.
That is a great answer, and that tells me so much about you. But I didn't know that you were from Florida. I was born and raised in Florida.
What part?
Now I'm a Georgia boy. I was about 45 minutes from Tampa in a little
You're a
town called
peach now.
Larghetto. Uh,
Okay.
born
I'm
and
from
raised.
West Palm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I got a friend that's buried down in West Palm, but I've spent a little time down there. Um, but New York, that's fast paced too. That's high speed.
It is high speed. That's why I wanted to come here. Because
Yeah.
Florida, it was really cool, but I did feel there was more media, more people just going and getting, things done. And a lot of my friends love them to death, but like you'll see a lot of women too want to kind of settle down, have families at like 25 and stuff like that. And people are like, oh yeah, like that's like the 35 in New York, whatever it is. But no, people are just always go getting and stuff like that. And I feel like I'm a very people person. I'm a very extroverted type of gal. So I'm trying to always get my hands dirty and do something. So,
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily a beach bum, but I do love it, and I go there for vacationing and to visit my loved ones and all that.
that's great. No, you want to be in an area that matches your
My
energy and
vibe.
trying to do things and get things out. And I definitely can see that. Without even living there, just spending the little bit of time I have there, I can see
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
definitely a spot for a filmmaker for sure. Um,
New Yorkers also match the Florida man energy too, you know.
yeah,
You see all the crazy people from the boroughs, so I
and
mean,
so well with people from up north, man. It's crazy.
always.
Um, Now, are you union or non-union?
I am non-union. I'm an indie
Oh,
person,
yeah,
indie
indie.
filmmaker.
I feel like indie's the best way to go. I understand the whole union thing. I've been talking to a lot of actors and producers lately, but I definitely understand it and I see it. But I've always been in love with this indie thing, man. Indie horror
Yeah,
is the
same.
best
I
way to go.
think
Right?
I honestly think there's different projects for different people, different routes for everybody, and maybe one day I'll do that. But you can still work on problems, union projects, being in non-union. Like it depends on the set. You can rack up hours and you can go if you try to do it. Personally, I think if you learn the game, play the game, non-union is pretty solid. You can
Yeah.
make a career for yourself, and also by connecting with people and understanding the business aspect of filmmaking, you can make like your own projects happen. And
Mhm.
you could do that the union route too, but personally, I just kind of saw a route for myself,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is how I can get to directing. This is how I could get to producing people's films. Like
Mhm.
I saw it, and I tried to grab that. I got a background in videography as well. I did a lot of music videography.
Mhm.
So I that influences my filmmaking a lot. And I would love to in the future make like features and other stuff incorporating musicians as actors. I
Nice.
think that would be pretty sick. I shot a documentary for Kiss. I have a lot of love for rock and metal,
Mhm.
and I think that like a lot of the imagery goes hand in hand with horror. Like
Yeah,
it's
sure.
dark, it's edgy, it's wild and energetic, and obviously it's a very diverse genre, but I think that like it would be really cool to merge the two mediums. I mean, there was an episode of also CSI Miami where they put Justin Bieber in it. And let me tell you how many views that episode got, because people are like, you want to see Justin Bieber get shot? And then they want, you know. So I think it would be so fun to like incorporate rock stars and like other musicians because they're performers, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, for sure. And
as like actors. That'd be sick.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I was just watching like a month and a half ago, Studio 666.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was pretty awesome, man, to see this guy, carrying this whole film that I've been listening to his music my whole life, all the way back to when he was a drummer for Nirvana. But I think we're starting to see that a lot more. These people, they realize that there's not a lot of difference there, and they want to step into that because it does go hand in hand, especially you're talking, depending on who you're talking about as an artist, right?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah. Depending
yeah,
on the person, of course.
yeah, exactly. But so that's really cool. I noticed that you had your hands in music videos and stuff, but one thing that's really impressive was seeing you like working with all these big cameras and all these big rigs and all this stuff.
Yeah.
How did how is that for you? What?
It's cool. So, I do a lot of directing, producing, editing, and camera work. So I
Mhm,
kind of stay in the visual and then producing, directing genre aspect of filmmaking. When I first started, and I was looking at the career and the culture as a whole, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, okay, I, at my heart, I'm a writer. How can I produce my works and my films on a low budget? Just come in like being 18, being young. I'm like, I don't have daddy's money. I don't like, I'm not rich. So how can I do this? So I figured out that, and this is the path that like worked for me was I learned editing first because I'm like, okay, if I shoot something with my phone, I can put it together, and at least that's a movie. I could tell my brother to run around, and I can cut a movie together. And then I realized, okay, so if I can edit even at a basic level, I should learn how to shoot because I can kind of hold the camera direct and like coordinate something from behind the camera.
Right.
So like I had a DSLR and I would offer people free music videos or whatever else to get my name out there. And I kind of tried to like level up and people eventually paid me and stuff like that. Then I bought a cinema camera. I have two what's it called? Blackmagic 6Ks. They're really small handheld, but they're 6K quality. They're really solid. And then
Yeah.
from doing that, I did a lot of camera work for people, learned angles that bettered my directing. And they do say like, as a director, you should kind of witness the edit or imagine it as you're filming to see how this is going to piece together.
Absolutely.
So that from being behind the camera, that helped me a lot. And it helped me learn how to kind of control the visuals I want and stuff like that. Because even if I don't want to be a DP doing my own projects, I can communicate to my director of photography way more. So I'm like, oh yeah, no, let me learn how to build the rig. Let me learn how to get my hands dirty. Like,
Mm.
I don't care if I'm out there in the snow. Let me like see if I can, get this work. Like I was taking a lot of low budget shoots when I first started, just to understand from people who are way more talented than I was at the time. Um, and yeah, so I would learn how to build cameras, build rigs. I did a lot of AC work. I still do. I like, I'm not that kind of person who's like, oh, I can't be a PA. Like I think if I'm on set, period, I think it's valuable. You always learn something from any set. Even really like low budget films that you've seen. Like I feel when people make mistakes too, you learn from that. You learn it's all valuable. So I tried my best to kind of learn from cinematographers.
Mm-hmm.
um how do I build things? How does this gimbal work? It'll let me
Right.
build this rig. And so because if I could do it, I wouldn't have to rely on a team if I don't have the money to do it. I could rent out the gear from like if I'm like bartending or something, I'll save up some money, I'll go rent out gear, and then I could just make my own film.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was doing was I would make really low budget films with high quality equipment to build up um some YouTube videos. And I'm not an avid YouTuber, but I was trying to build up like a portfolio. So I had some films on there which looked like really good quality, and I connect with cinematographers. I didn't shoot everything. So I connect with people, but I knew how to communicate. And
Mm-hmm.
so that bettered my directing. And when I had like a solid like short film that like I produced, I directed, I got a friend to do the cinematography for, it was a really good thing on my portfolio that I could show people at like a younger age, and they would trust me to then do their projects. So
Right.
it was like this whole climbing a ladder thing, but building the rigs and working with big gear and stuff like that, man, it's fun as fuck. Like
Yeah.
I love checking out new lenses, seeing the different vibes, testing different cameras. Like I feel like I am one of those director writers that would like loves to check out what's going on behind the camera. I know the tech. So I'm like, and if I don't know a camera, I'm like one of those people where I'm like, all right, let me study it, let me figure it out. Let's do this together. So it's so fun for me.
No, that is badass, and the
Yeah.
same exact thing here. And I think nowadays we're seeing it a lot more with people who want to be filmmakers because it's easier than ever. I was just interviewing somebody today, and we were talking about how the times have changed since, maybe like 2012 when these DSLR cameras started coming into a caliber that would allow you to make something so cinematic without spending
Yeah,
fees on a camera. It's just more accessible now, and
it's accessible for sure.
it
Look at iPhones. Like they came like I'm not
absolutely.
gonna say I choose an iPhone over like some cinema camera, but I mean like the ability you have to produce something, it's like you don't have an excuse. People don't have an excuse to make their works happen. And I do feel, and I would absolutely recommend this to any person coming new into the industry, is just make something,
Yeah,
because that is way more valuable than like waiting for a high tech piece of gear. Like just put something together so you can
right.
build your skills up. Like if you have an iPhone, that shit's 4K now. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
crazy to me. That's crazy.
And the cinematic mode is just it's killer. I mean, you can
It's
shoot in
beautiful.
well. Like there's just so many options. It's freaking crazy. I mean,
It's
with
crazy.
a snap of a button, it's white balanced. It's freaking phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, same here. It's so funny. In my 20s, when I realized this is something I was like, I'm really gonna go after. Everybody that was around me that wanted to do it too said, we need to have this camera, we need to have this amount of money. And I'm like, guys, let's just do it. And I ended up leaving those people and just doing it.
Just do it.
And
Yeah.
it's like 15 years later, and like I just kind of went down the rabbit hole the other day. And I'm like, they're still talking about it. I just turned 40. I'm like, can you imagine if I waited? Like, there is no excuse. You just said something so powerful for
There's no
anybody
excuse.
watching this. Pick it up and just do it. Write it. You know, I feel like if you write something, you need to direct it. Do you feel the same?
I personally feel the same. Yeah, I feel connected to my works, and I feel like if I wrote something, I would want to direct it and bring it out to the best of like what my vision is and collaborate. But it's that's a really interesting statement because not every writer is a director. I have
True.
I've met a lot of writers, and I directed this feature recently, which none of that was my writing. None of that is my work. I was able and I was happy to direct something to make someone else's vision come true. And
Mhm.
like I would try at points to like put my own flair into it, but like this was me being hired to make someone else's vision come to life. And so that was a challenge for me, but like it was interesting talking to the writer because he was not a director at all. Like he didn't know how to communicate to actors to portray his thoughts and talk to the crew. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You're a writer, but that doesn't mean you're always a director. Sometimes people have the ability to communicate their thoughts after the page.
Mhm.
And every screenplay, like I know that there is also a general structure of what you have to do, like here's an action line, here's the dialogue and stuff like that, but it's subjective. You can write it in a different way. He could give me a bulleted list and be like, do you think you could direct this? Do you think you could take these actions and just make it happen? And
Mhm.
I'm going to try my best to communicate to you, but I don't really know how to describe that. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You want to pay me to do it? Sure. And you have to, like, as a director, bring it to life, and that's a skill in itself. And also, congratulations to you making your own features. That's sick
Oh, thank
as
you so much. I
you
appreciate
know. But yeah, I've for my own works, like I've absolutely wanted to make my own visions, but I felt like I knew what to say. I know how to communicate to people, whereas some writers don't.
that is a gift, and that is worth that has high value.
It
Uh,
does.
I've always been a great people person. People always say Jody cannot meet a stranger no matter what he does. I just walk up and just become friends with anybody. And I can, that's a good quality because you want people to feel comfortable, but you want them to understand that you're willing to help them walk, man. And
Yeah.
but there's also, you said something very powerful there. You didn't say it in these words, but
It's okay. Go ahead.
hey, it is okay to let people help you raise your baby. I look at these films like they're a baby from every step, and it's all right to let somebody help you as long as you know they're a good parent, going to do a
It's
good
like,
job.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what is that when you get like the surrogate? Like here's my child. Can you deliver it?
Make sure you do a damn good job now.
Just making sure that you're healthy and you're gonna deliver my kid as best as you can. That's like but you have to really trust in the person that you're choosing to direct something. And
True.
it's like, can you do this? Can you relay my thoughts across? you
Mhm.
know and like Also, it's interesting, the writer director relationship, because a lot of writers are like, all right, here's a go, here's a script, you do whatever you want with it. I chose you because I like your style, put your style on it. But then there are some writers who are like, this is what I'm trying to get at, I don't know how to find the words to say, I'm hiring you to make that happen. Can
Right.
you make my vision come to life to a T? I'm going to pay you to do so, but I really, I can't communicate the technicalities with a DP. I can kind of describe myself, but like I really, like I stutter at my words. I'm stronger on the page, you know? And so it's interesting because you have to really, you know, build that relationship with your writer too, and like see like the kind of workflow that you'd want to handle with them.
Hmm.
So I feel like each project is also taken differently, you know, like I wouldn't say that they're all the same. Whenever I get hired for a job, i I try to go into it like, all right, this is going to be something completely new. I can take all of my knowledge from the other works that I've done, but let's see what's going to happen. Like even music videos, right? Like I've done a couple music videos. I've had artists come to me where they, one, wanted me to kind of write direct, but they also gave me like kind of like a bulleted outline. They're like, all right, this is kind of what I want. This is, I want to get to A to B, but I don't know how to.
Hmm.
How would you do that? You know, and then we collaborate, we talk about it, and then they're like, okay, but like they don't, some people don't understand like camera and editing. And you know how like if you make a movie, it doesn't have to necessarily be shot or edited linearly. You
Right.
know, you could do scenes out of order. And I've had like clients tell me like, oh, but don't we have to do this? And are we gonna get to this one? And I'm like, no, no, no. But like also as a director, you have to understand the produce like and scheduling. Like to be the most time efficient, if we do this scene, don't worry, we're gonna get what you want. We're gonna do this scene next, and we're gonna edit it out of, you know, in order afterwards.
And that's what I loved you said at the beginning that I can relate to, and I
Yeah.
think a lot more filmmakers are starting to relate to. And I know there's a lot of people out there that do it that way, but how you said you wanted to learn all the different aspects so you understand everything that's going on.
Mm.
But I also love, I love personally love editing as I'm going along. I do. I've
I
done
love that.
in a row now, and I would do it no other way. Because you know what the hardest thing is when you're making a feature. Tell me if you agree with this. I found this in the first one, and helping other people with theirs
Mm.
is whenever you don't do it that way. 6 months, you're filming for 6 months, and you haven't edited nothing. Now you get down to editing, all of a sudden it's been 6 months since maybe you worked with this actor. It's not so easy to bring people back in. They gain
It's
weight, they look
so
different.
hard.
That's why I feel like more people should do it. That if you're doing indie horror, I don't see why you would do it any other way. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
It's again like a project per project basis, but like I absolutely agree with that. Like I worked on this one film and I wasn't directing it, I was just working on it. But this actress, she, we filmed it also in the beginning of the year, and they wanted to do a pickup because they were editing it together and they realized they wanted to do a scene over. At
Wow.
the opposite end of the year, this actress was contracted for a certain amount of days. She
Ooh,
dyed her hair. And
right.
so to have a blonde actress in most of the film and now she has black hair, it's like that you didn't talk to her that we do a reshoot. You didn't plan these things. No one foresaw that she'd want to like dye her hair. And it sounds like something that's so small, but if you redid that scene now with her having a different hair color, it's there's no continuity. It doesn't make sense. So she pitched to them, she was like, what if we just make a comment with my character saying like, oh girl, I like what you did to your hair, and
Right.
so we can fit it in there.
No,
But
that's
in the structure of the movie, she was blonde in a later scene, so it's like that didn't work out, you
yeah.
know. So they couldn't, they were like, can you dye your hair, you know, they were trying to figure
It's
something out with
here,
her.
there. That's
Yeah,
a big
but
job.
she's like no. So you know, and it's like you never know. There's on every set too, there's going to be some type of unforeseen problem, and you have to be flexible, you know. You got to be
Got to be
flexible.
a problem solver for sure.
Got to be a problem solver. So like with that one, I think that they just went with the previous scene, but yeah, it's like you never know what's going to happen, and if you do something over the course of 6 months, it's like people could change. What if your actress got pregnant? You know, you have no idea. Life is unpredictable.
I love that way when you're editing as you go along, because yeah, if there's a problem, it's easier to call them back 2 days later than it is,
Absolutely.
down the road. Um and it's just so awesome to know that around the time that when you wrap your project, you're actually almost going to be wrapped with your project. Like if you're going along, like I noticed I started filming this second feature in January. I wrap May 1st, and I wouldn't doubt that the film will be finished May 1st.
That's
Like
incredible. Honestly, good for you for that. Like that's a lot of work.
it's a lot of fun though. I enjoy all the different mini jobs. Somebody was saying the other day, I was talking to Phil, he's the producer of Terrifier, and he was saying, what if you gave somebody this job, Jody? He's like, I understand these are your strengths, but he's like, if you give some of these jobs away, then what would your project look like? And I'm like, I understand that, but when you write something and direct it, having so many brains in one head, it does get a little weird. I know that's the industry, but indie horror, I feel like you have that room you can do so much. You don't need a lot, right?
Look, I think that even in union horrors and stuff like that, I'm sure there's writers out there who would want to do it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that it probably depends on like the tech and their editing skills and stuff like that. Like, see, like you and I, we learned how to edit. You know,
Mhm.
not everybody does that. Not everybody learns how to color correct and color grade and stuff like that, or like sound design. That's a whole other thing. I don't personally
Yeah.
sound design. I give that to somebody else. But like, I'm like, if you want to master voices, it's not going to mess with my editing. I
Color.
like to put my story together.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that also when it comes to, because that's a really interesting point you brought up. Like, there's a lot of brains coming into a project, and sometimes it gets convoluted. Sometimes it gets like messy, or it's like, are you getting my thought across? Why did you edit it this way? Like, so sometimes the directors go into the room with the editors,
Mhm.
sometimes they give it to them and they're like, let me give you notes. But sometimes, like, if it gets messy, it's like, we just want to get our hands dirty, let's just do it ourselves. I think you really have to trust the people that you work with. And for me, I've worked with a couple editors, cinematographers, where I really trusted that they were going to bring my vision out. But
Mhm.
I would work with them on a couple short films. I'd work with them on like, let me bring you onto this before I bring you onto a music video where this guy's paying me a bunch. Let's do a camera test. Let's see how we work together and
Yeah,
how our
let's meet before we get married.
yeah, before you deliver my baby. Right? Like, it's like you gotta trust in your team. And because like sometimes you go into a project and you have no idea who you're working with. It's
That's
like,
that's true, man. That's true.
yeah,
Especially when your business is, you're not just making your babies come to life,
bringing other people.
right?
Yeah,
You're
you're
helping other people,
surrogate.
the business for you. So, yeah, and see, I'm not in that aspect of it, so I don't know, man. But that's so awesome that you do
Yeah,
have hands, like you know how to do music videos, you know how to do features, you're doing all these different things, and you're a young. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Wow, wow, and you've done a lot. You tell us about some of the features that you've worked on, especially anything horror related, please.
Sure. Well, like I was saying, I was working on this guy, he goes by the name Bud Rebel. It's his like stage name. He made this film, The Undead, where I directed it and I helped distribute it. So that was really valuable knowledge to me to kind of see for like my first bigger budget indie film, because our budget was like around half a mil. And that was crazy because we had a crew of like 30 people, and it was a lot for me to manage and stuff like that. And I was really grateful for the experience. But it was interesting because this was his baby. This is his writing, his story, how he wanted it done. And I am a hired on director to relay the information to crew and actors. And it's weird because sometimes it's like a give and take, because I'm like, I am a hired on position. I can't do everything how I'd want to do it,
Mhm.
but that's okay because I am trying to make this work relationship with a writer to try to like make this happen. But and like get your vision out there, but in a way where I feel comfortable. So I would like also hire on crew that I've worked with before. And that's another thing is like, so that project we did it in 2 weeks. And
Wow.
yeah, we did not have the ability to do it over the course of months because we got it would be cheaper that way. And you'd think with like a budget like that, and that's also including though like distribution, editing and other stuff, food locations, but like we spent a lot of the budget on like quality of equipment and locations, right? And it like we shot upstate around the New Paltz type area,
Mhm.
and we got so lucky. We used a location scout that found a house that was from like the 1800s, and it was on a huge piece of property where there was a barn, and there was another, like there was like a shed looking thing. So we shot three different scenes that were in like three different locations and a forest scene all on the property. But it's like we had to have a property for the homeowners, and because we were on their property and because it was a big crew and stuff, we needed insurance. Like this was not a friend that I can call out of pocket. And because they want it done by a certain date, they're like I helped with budgeting and stuff like that, but they're like, I have a timeline of making this project. I want it done by a certain date. I want this. I want to do it right though. So I'm like, okay, we need to pay people, and we did get some people who were union who were able to work on this, and we got SAG actors to
Wow.
play their characters because that's what they wanted. This is what the writer and executive producer wanted, and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, how am I gonna get this done? But I would also I've worked on many sets, even if it wasn't my set. And that's why I say working on sets, just being even a PA, being an
Mhm.
AC, doing something where it's like you're not directing this, this is not your dream job, but it's valuable. You make connections. And so
Absolutely.
I knew people that I trusted to call on. And if you want it done in a week and you're shooting upstate, you gotta pay for lodging. So where am I gonna lodge 30 people? So my producer helped me find a hotel that would give us a discount, and it was very fun shooting there because we all kind of like partied like rock stars. Like we had hotel parties, and like afterwards, like what we got our job done.
That's
But like I believe in the work hard play hard, but like it was crazy because I'm like, all right, we have a deadline. And we flew out Burke Floyd and Tana Frederick. Burke Floyd was from Dawson's Creek. Flew some like celebrities from LA. And we had to coordinate their scheduling, their pickup. Well, we're upstate New York. And I'm like, okay, the airport's over here. Who's gonna do that? I need a PA to go, and like everything had to be on schedule, everything. And of course, like every set has problems. We did have a couple problems here and there, but the thing is, how are you flexible? How do you work through it? And like
right.
had to coordinate where are you gonna get food, what are the schedules per day, because we actually didn't have a break. We just worked 14 days straight, which was crazy. I think that in the future I'd have weekends. I think we needed weekends, but like I'm hired to do my job. So I'm like, I'm here directing, whatever. But it was interesting because I'm like, all right, we got a 12-hour day, 12 hours every day, 14 days straight. And let's go to another location. Let's make sure everyone's there. We even went to a farm, and I had my art director, Corey Shimko. She would get like actual taxidermy for certain scenes. And she's like, yeah, you want a dead lamb? I've got you a dead lamb. I got to connect for a dead lamb. And so I'm like, but these people really helped me make a project that I've never had a project of, like wanting it in this time frame, wanting it with this budget, and all that, and they expect this of me, and I'm grateful someone trusted me with this, and we got it done. But um like I've met these people in other sets and then through word of mouth and stuff. So I'm like, all right, you're a cinematographer. You want to hire someone to work with you, like as your camera assistant. You trust them. Okay. I trust you as a cinematographer. So I trust you. And then we had an editor actually working opposite hours and editing the project every day. And so at the end of the film, we actually had a film to watch. And so like when we had a wrap party, we watched the entire film, and it was crazy. But that was very stressful. It was rewarding but stressful, and so that was crazy. That was a horror feature that I produced. I would personally call it a thriller, but it had a lot of horror aspects where we had practical effects. We made these guts come out of a woman by taking like pantyhose
Oh
and,
yeah.
and like stuffing it and coloring it, and by with lighting and like camera work, it looked pretty legit, and but and what I liked a lot was that the writer was happy. The writer
Right.
was happy with the delivery, and that's like I was like, okay, cool. Like, get me on another project now. I was like, if you could trust me to deliver your baby, me as like the surrogate, bringing your film to life, like what if you trust me more with like my opinions and some more flair on this project, and like look at these short films that I've put out, and like I don't necessarily market my stuff too much, but I'm like, check out, I'm not like an avid YouTuber, but I'm like, check out what I did here. He's like a little psychological thriller twist. Like, what if we collaborate a little more because you could trust me to get my vision across?
Mhm.
So, um, now, like me and Bud, we work together a lot, and he's like a business partner of mine, and I'm grateful. And that's what's happening. We're making another movie, and this one I'm actually helping him with bits of the script. So I'm like, I am putting my own flair on this now. So that's pretty exciting. But what's cool about the Undead is I am helping distribute it, and I've never distributed with a distribution company a feature film before. And so with this, I'm like, okay, what do foreign market sales mean? How does
Mhm.
that look? What are prices per different territory? If we have a certain budget to meet, and we want to get our money back, how can we at least break even? So this knowledge I'm learning without having to have made my own project, and then I'm like, damn, I'm like down a bunch of money because I got like funding, and now I failed at distribution, which I don't intend to fail at distribution. But you know what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
I am very grateful to be working on a project where I can see it from pre to production to post to now distribution. And
Right.
it's currently on Amazon and Tubi, and it's coming to like Apple TV, and I think I got other platforms soon. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting process, like being a part of that. And I think that like for my own works and other films that I'm part of, like if people want to help me tell me to help produce their works, I'm like, look, I've learned XYZ, let me show you what I could bring to the table. Like I would love to see it if I could as a producer. If someone else's work, someone else is directing it, I'm like, let me help you with post production, distribution, let me give you whatever I can, because now I have that on my resume. So that was really cool for me. And also I apologize, I know I talk a lot.
Oh no, please, dude.
Okay, I'm ranting.
Listen, everything you're saying right now, it's very impressive. I respect it,
Thank
and
you.
I, you said so many good things that are going to be inspiring to other filmmakers. But just listening, distribution is a huge thing
It's a
if you're an
huge
indie
thing.
filmmaker and you want to get your stuff out there. The fact that you just did it, that's not your thing, but you've learned it, and now
Yeah.
that's your thing. That goes to show you, like, hey, if you want to do this, you can do it. I mean, this girl's worked her way up to where she knows all this stuff now, and you're working with $500,000. Just that experience alone. I haven't touched that vein yet, and I haven't written anything that I've needed that kind of money either.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can do it and then just have the hands-on experience of managing a budget like that and helping a project over a 2-week period just come to life. Yeah, how does anybody do that unless they get their hands dirty?
And you
So
know what else is crazy is like at the end of this, I'm like, damn, I could have bought a house with that money. But I'm like, that's not my money to spend. But it's crazy how expensive filmmaking is. You can make something really low budget, and you can make like, I mean, look at also Blair Witch Project being horror. You could do something experimental and indie and do something, but like also you can make something where it needs a budget, and man, it goes away. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I know people that have spent $1 million on making a film and
Mhm.
haven't sold 7,000 DVDs. I know people that have spent $100,000 and made $4.9 million off their indie horror film.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
And the people that I know that have done that, I just found out like in 1 year they dropped 40 feature films. And I'm like, how did you drop 40 features in 1 year?
In
That's
a
fucking
year, honestly, good for them. Even producing 40 films in a year, like that's crazy.
yeah.
A lot of work.
Now, they will be the first to tell you that, yeah, a lot of it's shovelware. However, sometimes you throw these things out and something's going to stick, and all
Yeah.
it takes is one to hit. And it's like the music business, I guess, because you see how artists they put songs out, one hits. Next thing you know, they call them one hit wonders, but that one hit has just like that's
It's
made
hard.
so
It's hard. It makes your career, you know?
yeah,
Like,
it floats all
so
the other films
it's
to
cool.
come, and that's kind of where they're at right now. It's like, we made 5 mil off this one film, so now this film's going, or the money from this is not only going to pay our bills for a while, but now it's going to float the next
Oh, absolutely.
5 or 6 films. I mean, if they did one on 100 G's, that's kind of their new
I
vein.
know,
Where
right?
let's stay in the 100 G pocket.
Yeah, and also like if a film is successful with 100K, it's like, all right, I'll double the budget. Look, it's like even better, but the same type of horror. We just got like better camera and equipment or whatever else that whatever they decided to do. But it's like I'm sure even with like, oh look, they increased the budget a bit. Like that film is that's gonna make a big stride, you know?
Absolutely.
So and it's cool. And also, you know what's interesting about horror, which is also like why I really like it, is like it's very community to me. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's a cult following, but it's a fucking community. Like I went on Facebook, and there's, do you know how many Facebook groups there are dedicated to horror? And there's over 100,000 people in it. And you know what? They're not filmmakers competing with each other or anything. They're people just loving the same movie from the 80s or the 70s or whatever else. Or, oh, check out this movie I found from Germany in the 60s. That's horror. Let's all talk about it. And they just have this mutual love. I do not see that as much with any other genre. And I guess except fantasy sci-fi, but like you don't really see that as much
Mm-hmm.
in horror. Like
Yeah.
horror has horror cons
A
and like
lifestyle
all this
for
weird
horror
stuff.
fans.
It's a lifestyle, you
Yeah.
know? Like man, I got a tattoo for Edgar Allan Poe, or even like it's my lifestyle.
Same
It's
thing
crazy.
here. It
You're wearing a Pennywise hat, man. I get it.
dude, this haunted house attraction that I went to whenever
I
I
love
was a
that.
kid, it was in Orlando. It was called Terror on Church Street. This was their
Oh
logo. They've
hell yeah.
been for like 20 something years.
What impacted you?
And it inspired me so much when I was a kid. I told my mom, I was like, when I grow up, I want to have a haunted house attraction. And like
I
3
love
years
that.
ago, I opened one and I got their logo tattooed on me as like, to
It's
remind me that
tradition.
I did it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it is. I live it and breathe it. I see that all day. What you're talking about, the groups and people, and I mean, there's not romance cons, there's not comedy
There
cons,
isn't, you know. But
there's
also
horror cons.
I feel like it's although like people can say the film industry is very competitive and stuff, I feel like there's more of a love in horror, and it's so funny because it's scary. Like
Yeah,
it's a scary genre. But when I meet another horror filmmaker, I like nerd out. I'm like, man, you like horror? What's your inspiration? We should do something together. What if we
yeah,
made this person explode and here's a monster? And you know they fuck with it.
yeah.
And I feel like it's such a very like homey family type genre, because when I see also, and maybe it is also a personal thing, but I do see it a lot within like these groups and stuff like that. If I see another horror filmmaker like succeeding, I'm just like, man, good for you. That's awesome. And guess what? I get to see more guts on the screen. Thanks for contributing. Like it's very community, you know, and I don't see that with a lot of romance filmmakers, you know? Like you're not gonna see like, oh man, you made another like what is it, Nick Sparks movie, here's the next Walk to Remember. I'm so like, let's make one together. Let's like, I don't see it as often, I should say, but horror, everybody wants to be like, man, let's do this together. Let's like, I support you. Let's go to horror con. You know what? My buddy's there signing books. Check his book out. Oh, it's spooky. Like, let me grab one, like it's very family.
You're absolutely right.
I love
Everybody
that.
beats with the same beat, and it is really, really cool. I love it too. That's
Mhm.
a beautiful thing to see. Um, horror is near and dear to you. You even told me before we started this that your name even had a meaning. Do you want
Absolutely. It's funny. So like, I was named after Bram Stoker's Dracula. Dracula, his like lover was Wilhelmina. My mom named me Mina because she thought it was pretty and it's from the movie. And I've always had this horror interest, so I would tell myself, I'm like, damn, it's in my roots. And it's so funny because I'd make fun of my sister, and I'm like, I was named after classical literature. You were named after like this tampon commercial. At the time, there was a tampon called Colette tampons, and so my sister's Colette. She's a
oh,
pretty name, but I'm like, that's from a fucking tampon commercial, girl. I
dude.
always poke fun at her, but yeah, no. My roots, I feel come from. My mom also liked a lot of dark literature and stuff like that, so I'm sure I had some inspiration from her.
That is so far, man.
How about
Um,
you? Were your family interested in it?
in horror, no, actually, they had all kind of like looked down on me for
Were you
being
the
in.
problem child?
I was, but as soon as I had like any success at all, they all came back like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you,"
Yeah,
and one of those type deals. Which, hey, it is what it is,
they'll be at Thanksgiving and they're like, "That's the movie, son."
I think people betting against you. It gives you this fuel that you can't buy anywhere else. I honestly can say I wouldn't have accomplished anything that I have if it weren't for so many people betting against me. Like I just took it and used it. Have you done that? Like the
Yeah.
world is saying like you're not going to do this, and it makes you push harder. Even the people I started off doing with films, they were like, "You can't do that. You can't." I'm like, "Oh, you done lit a fire."
It's crazy. It really does. And I will have to say, like, I can't I can't say that every occurrence where people were negative to me, I immediately jumped back, like it's sad when you get negativity and it hurts sometimes. And maybe like for me, because I also like have really bad anxiety, like I'll think about it, I'll deal with it. But then later on it does absolutely like spark something. And I'm like, you know what? Screw you. I'm like, you don't deserve that. And like I've dealt with people even on my teams, like friends I've trusted or people. I've had people personally try to take my clients, you know, like behind my back. And I'm like, man, I thought we were a team. Like, let's grow together. And we'd have a vision. And then I catch them like talking to my client behind my back, like, but I could do it cheaper. Let me take her job. And I'm like, dude, like, I didn't grind all this way for nothing. And I plan to bring us as a team. Like, what are you doing? Like. But like, so I would meet people like that. And I've actually, like, I know it sounds like cliche or like this wouldn't happen. It's far-fetched, but like I've actually been on set. And I think maybe it's a generational thing or whatever else. But I've had people talk about me in different languages too, saying like we shouldn't have a girl cinematographer. Like I don't think she can lift as much. And I'm like, it's not heavy. It's
Damn.
not that heavy. The one thing I will say is I know I'm short. I'm 5'1", but I mean I could shoot a picture. You just put me on an Apple box. Like I can make it work, man. But like I've actually heard that because like there was once I was doing like an Indian set one time and they were speaking in I think like Hindu. And my friend, a good buddy of mine, he was working with me. He's like, "Yeah, this is what they said about you in a different language." And I'm like, "They're talking in front of me in a different language? That's
Man.
disrespectful, man." And so like after heard that, like I'd be sad, but then I'm like, no, like why am I on this set? I'm
Mhm.
here because I have good skills. Like let me
Right.
power through this. And it's funny because I remember I was being an AC. I was a camera assistant on that set, and now when I put out that I was directing and distributing, the same people who didn't think I knew what they were saying would message me and be like, "Oh, we should work together." And I'm like, "No."
Damn.
I'm like, I was like, "Absolutely fucking not." Like, you should put me on your set. Like, I'll help you produce something. I'm like, it's okay. Thank you though.
Yeah. No, people do you such a favor. Like I swear, I love that when people make their own bed right in front of me. I'm like, you just saved me a lot of trouble and energy from finding out who you are, man.
Exactly. Like people show their true colors sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's also, I think that also goes into why, and I'm sure you can relate, is like it's good to know like shooting, directing, editing. And even if you hire someone to shoot your project, it's like, all right, cool, give me the media, let me put it together. I don't need you, because you will get what you have to do done. You are going to be a go-getter. You are going to make sure that your project comes to life. You're going to do what you need to do.
Hmm.
And if someone tries to like disrespect you, show their true colors, or do something, it's like you don't have one up because I don't need you.
Yeah,
I respect you and I want to have a collaboration or a teamwork and I want to trust the people I work with, but you can't trust everybody and it's sad. Not everybody's a good person. And so it's like you have to learn how to watch your back. And I think that that happens a lot in just any business.
for
It's like
sure.
there are people who are just out to get you.
Yeah, no, it's I've seen it in anything I've ever done before,
In
and
anything. Yeah.
me for yeah, for anybody. It's yeah, it's a sadness, but at the end of the day, you will never let yourself down,
Yeah. And you
and
got
we,
to remind yourself who you are.
yeah, we get lucky. There's some family that like, like for me, it's my wife and my kids. It's like, dude, what else do I need? Come on. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like I am very happy that there are a few other people other than that, but it's like at the end of the day, if you have four people you can trust, man, you've got it made.
You're blessed. Yeah.
So
Having
um
someone that you can trust wholeheartedly is an absolute blessing. It is.
no, for sure.
Yeah.
It's but uh what do you enjoy the most about making films? I mean, I know you do all kinds of stuff, but like films, man, features, like
What
is
do I
it
enjoy the most about it?
that baby grow up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I love being on set. I love seeing um I think like if I'm not writing something, because also even if I am, I think I just like seeing it come to life. I like being on set. I like seeing the production happen. I like dealing with the madness. I like like even like I was saying I was shooting a documentary for Kiss. It was Eric Carr. He was the drummer who passed away. And it was like his effect on the band and like doing things like that. Like I would be sent out to different rock and metal bands and stuff like that. Like that I had to go see, what was it, Godsmack on a tour bus, and we had a limited time slot to do it. And I'm like, it's a rush. I'm like, let's do it. Let's meet new people. Let's shoot this. And then once I stopped recording, I'm like, I got it. Like I got this interview. This is sick.
Yeah,
Let's do something else. But it's also like when you're in production, it's like the different locations you go to. It's exciting. I think if I was doing a different career, I wouldn't, I guess, as much see so many different locations. Like I travel a lot with my career and I think that's awesome. Like and my boyfriend, he's also in the industry. He does lighting tech, he's a lighting technician. And if I, go with him to one of his jobs too, or like, I'm just like, let me visit. He's like, oh, I'm in Connecticut today. And I'm like, that's sick. Let's go. Or like, I'm going to go here.
that,
Like there's opportunities to go to different countries and get paid for it. And
yeah,
it happens in some other fields, but like, when can you say you're making fun stories in a different country? And you
absolutely.
meet a new person every set. I think being a people person, it's cool connecting with so many like-minded people. So I do love the production aspect of it, I think, the most.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that too, man. It's always sad when it's over. I can't
Yeah,
wait to.
right. But I'm sure it's fun for you, like when it's editing.
Yeah, yeah. No, I enjoy the
Like,
editing
see
process.
it, see it come to life.
People
What do you
don't
edit on?
is always Final Cut Pro
Are
from the
you
beginning.
fun at Cool, cool, cool.
Final Cut Pro X. Yeah, I it's what I started with, and it's what I'll end with. I know a lot of. What do you use?
I have a base in Premiere and I started doing DaVinci. I like their color grading a lot, like with the DaVinci system. I'd say if you haven't, check it out. Like just for at least the color grading, it's pretty
Yeah.
solid. But like how the timeline and stuff, I'm like nerding out. But like how the timeline is set up is very similar to Final Cut. where it's like, all right, just drag and drop the media. It's really straightforward and simple. I do a little bit of After Effects, but I'm mainly like DaVinci Premiere.
Yeah, that's something I've never even tried to learn After Effects. However, anytime I sit down to write anything, it's practical from beginning to end. I don't
Oh, I
really,
love that.
yeah, I don't hate CGI. I see movies and I like it, but it would never be for me. Like no matter
Feels
what,
different.
there would
Are
never be a
you
gun fight scene where we're using VFX blood, like I rig the pumps myself. I do everything. Like I don't know if there's anything I don't do. I even, just like when my second feature, same as my first and the one I start shooting in January, I write, direct, film, edit, do the lighting, score all the music, do all the practical effects.
wow.
Just
That's
hire
a
people
lot.
to help me. Like, hey, when I say action, you're gonna count to 3 in your head and you're gonna hit this blood pump. Hey, grab me this, hand me new gloves. Like I hire people for that kind of stuff. Move a light, little
Right.
things, and once they know how you work, it becomes a little bit easier. So now that my family's getting involved with it, it's
Oh,
like,
that's amazing. I love that.
yeah, I'm putting my kids in every feature I write. The
That's sick.
oldest
That's so cool. They're
is
probably
the
they're probably like so stoked about that too.
They are, but the craziest thing is they're really freaking good. Like I can't even.
Like as actors or on crew?
Good actors, good crew. They're
Amazing.
hungry. Like my
I love that.
oldest is 16. He plays the massacre in my film.
Okay.
Um, and he's just killing it as a killer. I mean, 6'1" and 16. He's big. He looks like a big killer.
He's a whole foot taller than me. I'm 5'1". It's a bit. It'd like step on me. But
Dude, he
that's
looks monster.
incredible. Good for you. Like, I mean, also like having a family that's so passionate about that, that's amazing. That's the goal, man.
Yeah, no, it really is. But I mean, I don't know if it would work any other way either. I don't live in New York or Cali, or even when I was in Florida. I know the scene in Florida is better, but living in Georgia, it's not. It's really hard to find. I find actors all the time that are looking for work, but
Uh-huh.
nobody wants to work. It's so weird.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
It's so funny because I hear so much about like Georgia being so up and coming and like Atlanta's so good and all this shit. Like they
I
filmed The Walking Dead there, I think. But
yeah.
it's like it's hard to find people to commit.
It's the committing part. Yeah, like I'll find people that are stoked and even really stoked about the money. Like I've been told a lot. Like I am very, very generous compared to other production companies they're going to. Like
Yeah.
one girl that's coming on set to film with me next week, like she couldn't believe she's getting paid $200 for like 6 hours of work, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what are they paying you?
Literally,
Crazy.
what are they paying you?
I thought that was low. Like I'm the shit, like I don't know. I do things right and I am getting lucky. I am finding a bunch of hungry people, but
Good.
it's taking longer than it should. I imagine a place like New York or Cali, it's probably more bam, bam, you can get what you need. I would
It
think.
is, but it's more expensive, So like, people also it's funny what you mentioned that because I feel like on the opposite end of the spectrum too. And it's a case to case thing. But I've met people who are like, they don't have too much on their resume, they're
Mhm.
new, they seem like they're hungry, but then like they hear a rate and they're like, but SAG gives this and I if you want me to be on set for 10 hours, like it needs to be this rate. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that's not in our budget. And
Right.
also like I thought that you had like maybe two films on your plate, two short films, if anything, student films, and you're breaking my leg, like,
Yeah.
or people who are very demanding. Like I've worked with this one actress and we were about to solidify her. I liked her how she portrayed things. She seemed really nice on the emails. When I told her she got the part, she's like, "Oh, by the way, I can't do this day." And I'm like, "But I asked you about your schedule before I hired you. Like we're doing it for this time block." And
Mhm.
she's like, "No, yeah, but if you want me, you have to work with what I'm gonna provide." And I'm like, "Honey, no. Like
Mm-mm.
this is the project I'm putting together. If you can't be the part or be a part of this, and I've already set this on the like the casting ad, I don't know what to tell you. you know. But so like you'll meet some like wannabe divas and stuff like that, and you'll meet some great people too, like don't get me wrong, but like I think because the acting scene is so like swamped over here, it's like you meet people who are very stuck up, and it's hard to find people who genuinely want to work with you and commit. And
Yeah.
when you do, it's like, man, hold them dear.
How often do you work with actors when it comes to a short film or a feature that have no acting experience that just blow your mind or that you're happy with?
I would say pretty often, you know, like I don't necessarily try to hire. I'll look for new talent all the time, and I like I was saying to you, like I would love to put musicians in films. I
Mhm.
wouldn't see them as a traditional actor, and I had this one comedian, um, in a horror based music video, right? So it was actually a narrative music video, different scenes of classic horror movies and stuff like that. And I hired this guy to be in a part where it was a theme of the strangers, and he was a comedian, and man, he blew my mind. Like I was like, I was like, I thought you were funny. Like, you know, I didn't expect this, but he would cry on command, and
Nice.
his facial expressions were so good. And I feel like that dealt with his comedy background. Um, but yeah, no, it was crazy. And then sometimes you'll meet like someone random indie or just fresh, and they're incredible. And I'm like, man, I don't know how you do it. So, because like I try my best as like a director to get like the point across to like even have like someone who's new to acting, like at least understand what I'm going for, understand like
Right.
body language, you know, and stuff like that. But sometimes you'll meet someone and they just get it, you know?
Totally. Yeah, if you just meet somebody, I've noticed because I actually prefer I prefer to work with people that don't have a long resume or you know not diva ish.
Yeah,
But
you don't need that.
if somebody just really cares, that
Mhm.
understands simple direction and really cares about what they're going to do, the performance you get is up there anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
I'll tell you this, look, if you put me in a film and kill me, I'll commit to it. I've always wanted to die in a horror movie.
all right. Well, don't tell me that because I might do it.
I do. I wanna be like, I don't know, like, it should be really brutal, like, make it creative, and I
Ooh,
will do my best.
that's my style. Yeah, my first film I held back a little bit, but a second film I just went overdrive and really showed what I can do with effects, and so I just want to step it up from there, man. Who wants to go backwards, right? Um,
What's your favorite subgenre of horror? I know it's tough. I know it's hard.
yeah, that is tough. I'll be honest with you. For the last 10 years of my life, all I've really watched is indie horror. Like even commercial horror that comes out, I don't really go to watch it. It's too
Valid.
funny on the screen for me. I know
Yeah,
that's crazy.
but what
Um,
type? Like, do you like
I love horror.
slashers, monster, like body horror?
Oh, slashers are my thing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all day.
Now you
My
need to put
favorite,
me in a movie. Now I need that, you know?
my favorite horror franchise is Long Term franchise.
Wrong Turn?
My number one.
Oh,
Yes.
cool. Yeah, no, those are awesome. Yeah.
I love what they've done there. It's always kind
What's
of
your
been
favorite death?
dream of mine to actually maybe write one of the films one day and direct one. But
Absolutely. Movie death. Movie death.
movie though,
Yeah, what's your favorite movie death? Like,
Turn Four,
what kill was the most creative?
Bloody Beginnings, Wrong Turn 4. The I know it sounds crazy, but the kill there was this kill where they made this drill that was like this big around and like very like 4 feet long, and he drove it right through the middle of the girl. And the crazy thing is it looks so real, and that's the hardest thing, practical effects, right? Is to make
Yeah.
it real, especially if you're not cutting it like 2 or 3
It
times.
was practical.
It's practical.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so
Um,
cool.
I'm very inspired by Terrifier, I especially part two because it was the
So
first
good.
time in a while that I seen somebody doing gore effects on the level that I had been talking about doing them for years. And when I seen how much people loved it, I'm like, dude, that inspired me to do some of the stuff I had been keeping in the pocket. So
Absolutely. No, it and even the first Terrifier, like when they had the girl upside down and they sawed her in half, I was
great.
that's disgusting. My mind is blown. They don't hold back. They don't hold
Yeah,
back at all, and I love that because that's an indie film, you know?
that's what I love is people that don't hold back.
It doesn't hold back, yeah. You know,
Yeah,
but that's also what's really sick about horror is, like, you can really put whatever you want into it. You're not necessarily gonna be canceled, man. Like, it's a
right.
horror film, you know? I'm like, "Don't say anything to me." I'm like, I could put the most ridiculous thing in here, but I'm doing it to scare you. It's a
Yeah.
horror movie, you know? So I think that's cool. I would love to make a slasher one day. That's
What's
cool.
your favorite slasher, or what's your favorite horror film?
I don't think I have a favorite horror film, and I know that's tough, but I have inspiration from a bunch of different things. I think I will say though, I have been on a kick lately of body horror because
Mhm.
it just grosses me out. You know, like I mean, I love psychological horror the most because I love like understanding human nature and stuff like that. Like it's very interesting to me.
Mhm.
But for like seeing practical effects, I would say there was this movie, I think it was what was in the 60s or 70s. Eyes Without a Face was the English translation. And
Mhm.
it was Les Yeux Sans Visage. It was French and it was black and white. It was fucking weird. It was very Nazi doctory. But they did have you seen it?
I haven't, no, but I'm
Gotta,
following.
you gotta check it out. So like basically this girl gets in a car crash and her face is like a little disfigured. Her dad is like um he fakes a funeral for her because he's like ashamed of her face. She is. And then he goes out to hunt a new face for her. So he finds girls with her frame.
Wow.
He kidnaps them, the whole thing. And without them obviously being willing, he does a face transplant. But what was really fascinating was it's practical, you know? So
Mhm.
they actually, you see it. They see them removing this girl's face and cutting it up and lifting it up and putting it on this other girl. And it's so disturbing. But
Yeah.
there's a bunch of effects like that. Where that one, I would say it was a very interesting film because it was very like it was a mixture of psychological body horror and then like I don't know some like the practical effects. Like there was a room upstairs in his house where it was like a bunch of dogs in cages having similar experiments, and I'm like, this reminds me of like Nazi experiments or like have you ever heard of like Delphine Lalaurie? She
Mhm.
was like yeah, she was a crazy serial killer who unfortunately like experimented on like slaves and stuff like that. She had an attic of horrors. But when I was looking at that, I was like, this is disturbing, you know. But they for also the time period, and I feel like
Time.
one maybe we got a little more sensitive kind of coming or like into the like 2010s and beyond, but then they stopped, they or they're trying to find their balance. But like for films like that, like a lot of them like had explicit scenes, didn't care too much, will show a full face removal, are going to show you their guts coming out and like brutality. But I that was a French film, and I think what drew me to it too was like um you know, other countries don't have as like different regulations and stuff like that. Like German horror is different than American horror, you know,
Mhm.
especially different time periods. So it's fascinating to see. But movies like that, like I watched that one. I watched a couple other ones that were like body horror, and I'm like, this is fucking nasty. So I'm like, I've been on that kick, just seeing like what people create, and a lot of which is practical effects. Like
Yeah.
seeing what they can make with that, it's inspiring. I'm like, man, you know what? Maybe I'll remove someone's face.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, so that's something that could be in the pipeline there. Is you doing like a slasher or something like that for sure?
Oh yeah, for sure. I personally want to make a film of like different subgenres. Like just I'd be like, you know, one day I'll make a paranormal film if I want to. But I think if it's a slasher, paranormal, things like that, it would have a psychological undertone. Like for example, that film I was describing, Eyes Without a Face, where they were doing scientific experiments removing a woman's face. They also had the psychological elements of like how the girl felt seeing her funeral being faked by her dad, and like how the public perceived her, and why the dad was out getting women to get face transplants. It's like it's not just in your face killing. The villain has a meaning like in his mind to him, you know. And I think that movies I like movies like that more, although I absolutely am gonna like drink a little with my friends and watch Zombievers sometimes, you know. But like I do like seeing the elements of human nature and like psychology in whatever the film is, even if it's like, here's a paranormal film, here's a monster film. It's like, how are the choices people making relevant to the story and what makes them make these decisions and stuff like that, like making that very apparent. I think that I would have that would be my flair, but I would absolutely be like, yeah, let's make a fucking Terrifier-esque slasher where like this girl's gonna be cut in half and people's are gonna be hacked up and I'm gonna do it practical. You know, like I would love to do that, but you know, I just wouldn't do it mindlessly hacking, I think.
Right, right. No, dude, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, there needs to be
It's a
more.
beautiful thing.
It really it is. Listen, when you're a horror lover, and
Yeah.
you know the biggest what news in the last 6 months is people were like, man, I wonder how he's going to step it up with this. How can he top these kills? And
Yeah.
that's that's where their mind is. But there you go, man. You know you're experiencing a reality you don't want to experience in reality.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly that. Like I like the Saw movies for that too. Is like Jigsaw is an interesting villain, you know, like he has in his mind at least a reason to why he's doing this, you know. Like
yeah,
he's calculated, he's doing these things. He is like, "Oh, you guys were ungrateful of your lives." And to
blame.
him, he's playing God, but like to him it's like this makes sense. He's teaching them a lesson. Versus like I have no idea what's wrong with this killer. But
Mm,
on the other hand, I think it is dependent on how the story is told because I did like The Strangers and one line in that was like why are you doing this to us? And the villain was like, because you were home.
yeah,
And that alone was so scary because it makes the viewer feel like, damn, there are people out there and maybe I was just at the wrong time, wrong place.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it is a
One thing
lot of the
about
storytelling.
Eli Roth is a lot of his films, well, all his films, like they actually feel like something that could happen in real life, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do like that. I do like that fantasy element too, where you're like, Hatchet, man, perfect example, ripping off people's arms and stuff,
Absolutely.
easily and blood squirting 14 feet away, like it would never happen. But, there's, I just love horror in general, man. But there's a place for all those films. The new Silent Hill finally comes out in 19
Uh,
days.
that's awesome.
So stoked. I'm a huge Silent Hill fan, so that's psychological horror. It's a little bit different, but
It's the writing's good, you know, is and it's stuff like that because I would still absolutely make a monster movie, but like I
mm,
would make the monster I don't know, just it's like I wouldn't want to see a film personally where like all of a sudden they're there and they don't know anything about this monster. We don't really hear too much of a backstory and they're just smashing people around. And
mm,
it's just there for blatantly for the gore. Like I feel like the monster or a little story behind it, maybe it's folklore even, would need a little bit more substance, you know? And I think that seeing people's decisions and reactions to like a terrible environment, like for example, like look at The Walking Dead, right? You got
mm,
zombies, but people like that because they're like, oh man, like you've got a person who's going to betray another and like throw them into the zombies and do all this like crazy shit. Like it's also has a lot of aspects of human nature and what people will do at extreme cases while they're zombies. So I would like to see just like a blend of both, because like would I absolutely love to make some like disturbing monster and see some gore? Yeah, I would. But I would also like
there's
to
a reason
see,
why I'm doing it and why
yeah,
everybody's so
some solid
excited.
characters and their reasoning behind things and making them dynamic characters too. Like, all right, here's, you know, whatever else. But yeah, that's essentially the gist.
Yeah, no, I love that. Um, what's the hardest thing about making films and doing what you do?
Um, I think the hardest thing about making films is I well, I'll take it as like if I'm producing my own film, I think what's really difficult is getting a budget. You know, like either like if I'm saving up money or if I'm trying to make it out of pocket or if I'm trying to get funding, being able to have a budget to work with to make the things that you want happen. I also think that like locations are very difficult. Not everyone's going to want you to use their house.
Mhm.
And maybe your film isn't based in a house, but so if like you're on a beach, right? The weather might be really shit that day and now you have to reschedule. So it's like making your story happen with like the logistics of your environment is really difficult to me. Like if I had a producer just put it together so I can come on to set and be like, all right, man, you got what I wanted, let me do it, sure. But yeah, that's not always the case. I have this new short that I'm doing, and I'm probably gonna make it around May. And I found a location, I found a house, I found a makeup artist. I actually found a contortionist, which is gonna be really sick.
Oh,
That's gonna
nice.
be a monster movie. I want her to like pop out, bones pop, practical effects. It'll be cool. But what was difficult for me with that was finding my contortionist. I put out so many ads like on Backstage, other sites, even Facebook, and I'm like, does anyone know a contortionist in New York who's gonna come out? I'll pay you. Come
Mhm.
through. Like I just want you to be creepy, man. But like finding the people to come together, it's difficult because I feel like once you get to it on the day, I'm like, yeah, I could tell people like how I want them to act, and I wrote the story already, but I'm like, okay, let's put it together. So I guess with both examples, it would be pre-production. Pre-production is very difficult for me. Can I get it done? Sure, but it is the hardest part of filmmaking, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely can understand. That seems like the biggest thing,
Scheduling, logistics, locations. It's like nothing ever goes to plan, and you have to be flexible and so
right.
that you can have a good product.
You you gotta be able to be creative in chaos, man. And I just these guys were just telling me today, is like, man, we shot this half of this scene one day, and there was this building in the background. And like 2 days later, when we came back to finish the scene, believe it or not, that building in a distance had been blown up. They destructed that building. And I said, what are the chances of that? And he said, so he's like, we had to shoot it a little, we had to pan a little bit and do it. But man, that sucks, because
It's
what if you
insane.
didn't pan? What if you wanted to shoot it, 90 degrees? I don't know.
Whoever thinks of that, like you're not gonna think this building is gonna blow up. Like that's insane.
But
Oh
it
my
goes to show you, I mean, anything can happen. You just need to be prepared and be creative. And I mean, I know instantly how I would fix that. Like, and I know too. You'd probably like, okay, all right, I'm gonna shoot up more. Panning is one, but I mean, close-ups, tight shots, like it just,
you can
there's
get a
so many
different
ways
angle.
to fix it.
What about yourself? I'm curious. When you're making your features, right? What was something really difficult that you've come across on set, and you're like, man, I got to be flexible right now.
Um, it's people coming unprepared, or like they come there and the bad energy,
I don't
man.
know. It's big.
Yeah, when I run into that, I get through it, but I know how to work through that
Of
with
course.
people.
It's
Um,
tough.
but then it sucks because it messes with your energy. So I've had to deal with that quite a bit back in my 20s, when I was just making shorts and working with other people a lot. People would show up. um, you know uh, I've been blessed for the most part, but there's been a few times, man, where somebody shows up and they've got a bad attitude. They're difficult. They didn't study at all. Didn't even look at the script. And I understand why people do table reads and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, um, that's not something that I do. I get there, I tell people what I want, and I show them. That's one thing I do, is like I actually act out the scene for people and say, this is what I'm looking for. It don't have to be exact. But I want this point to come across. I want people to feel this. And that seems like that helps a lot whenever, like, you can tell them what you want them to do, but when you show them, they're like, oh shit.
That's cool.
There's nothing like that when you see it in real time, right?
You
So
act as well. Like with that being said,
yeah, I've been acting, forever. I mean, unfortunately, that's something I can't do as much doing these films.
we'll
But
have to trade off. I'll kill you in my film. You kill me in yours.
that sounds like a start the next one in January. I'm about to be wrapped with the second one, so maybe we can figure out how we can.
We'll figure something out.
I was gonna ask you. I mean, we've covered a lot, but Is there any acting in your future? Is that something you have done or want to?
I haven't dabbled like too much, but I've made like cameo here and there, and I think that that would be really fun. I mean, I took a couple acting classes when I was younger, but like just for fun. But I think like as I'm like directing and being on set, because I always imagine myself more of like a behind the camera type of person. But I was actually thinking of taking an acting class to better my directing. Because I think if you know how to also if you know what works with what someone's communicating to you, what makes sense in your mind, like
Mhm.
that's gonna help you out behind the camera. So I was like, maybe I'll dabble in some acting here and there. I don't see myself as being the next Oscar winning actor or like being like the lead of a film. Maybe I will one day for fun. But
Mhm.
like yeah, I'm open minded to it, man. I told you to kill me. Like I think I would do things like um just to get the experience out of it and stuff like that. Yeah.
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 Just know where I mean, just the fact that you know where the camera is and how these things work. And you said something earlier, which is one of the things I love most about doing practical effects. When you're on set doing practical effects, right?
Yeah.
Everybody sees something and they don't know how it works, but they don't really need to. They're all wondering, they're all curious. What nobody realizes is once color correction hits that thing, and once you throw one single cut in there, it sews it up together, and
What's
people
different?
see it and
Yeah.
are like, I was wondering how you're going to do that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
That's exactly why sometimes it's difficult for people to direct because they don't understand how it's gonna look later. Like for
Right.
people hiring me to do their music videos, they're like, "This is what I want," but like I don't get it, And I'm like, "No, no, trust me. Just trust in the process. Like, we'll make it happen. We'll make you look good. Like,
Yeah, you don't need to understand. This is why I'm here doing this
tell me
job.
what you want. I'll make it happen."
That's amazing. Well, I listen, we've had a long, great talk, and I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again in the future, talking about projects, something you have coming up. Is there anything right now that people need to go check out? Is it the Undead or
Um, everyone can check out the Undead. That is not my rating. That's not my personal baby though. But I would say that is on Amazon and Tubi, and that was definitely a fun project to be a part of. I would say if anybody wants to check out my personal works, I have a YouTube blog that I will be more involved in now and trying to market myself and all that. I'm posting more hopefully this year. It's called Church of Mina. It's a cult.
ooh,
So yeah, and it's just Church of MENA. And you can see my short films, stuff that are free to the public. And if I produce a feature or do something, you'll see trailers and updates there. So I would say check out my YouTube, subscribe, and you can also follow me on Instagram if you want to keep up to date with my work. It's just my name, Menaguy.
nice. I like that. COM, Church of Mina.
Church of Mina.
I love it, man. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mina Guy. I appreciate you. Just stay on here for a second.
Sure.
Guys, listen, smash that thumbs up, comment below, share this on social media. This is a fairly new channel. You guys probably know me from my bigger channel, Hunting the Dead. So make sure your notifications are on over here. Interviews with people in the film industry, filmmakers, just really good conversation about horror. You never know what you're going to get, but it's not a box of chocolates. It's a gallon of blood at a time, baby. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for your support. And until next time, sweet nightmares.